Okay, hello everyone. Happy Friday. Here we are for our last official, for now, 5 Zoom class. We're hitting our lower body conditioning and strength in that specific order. We're going to start off with a nice warm-up as per usual, get our blood flow and body moving. And then we have conditioning work to start, followed by some strength supersets to finish us off. So for equipment today, we will need our usual things, our dumbbells, our loop bands, our mat, as well as our supportive footwear, especially if you're going to be joining me on the high impact jumping stuff. You want to put these guys on so that you have your support for your ankle, your hips, your knees, all of that stuff. But let's start off with a warm up, which is going to come to the very end of our mat with some of our walkouts. So hip width apart in our feet, soft knees, we'll hinge the hips back, bring ourselves down, getting that stretch in the back of the legs, all the way into the plank. Once we get here, nothing. We're going to walk right back up to the top, standing up nice and tall, and doing it again 2 more times. And with the focus of opening up the back of the legs. So we'll go through these ones, maybe 1 more of them, again, reaching that top position between each of them. Last one here. And then we are going to walk right back down to the very bottom, but stay here for this 4th one. Once we're down here, we're going to reach the hips up to the very top, drop heel while bending opposite knee, counting out 6 of these total, 3 on each side, getting that calf nice and stretched out, the hamstring, a little bit of blood flow to the head. We'll do 3 per side, 6 total, and then hips back down. We'll walk ourselves for the last time back up to the top and get ourselves into a squat stance. So we want to stand a little bit wider than our hips, arms up. They're going to stay up for our overhead squats. We're doing 10 of these total, where we're trying to keep those arms up so that we don't see our hands. Get all the way down to 90 degrees in the knees. Get that butt down there, going through that full range of motion. And again, keeping those arms extended above our head through our 10 reps total on those ones there. Sticking in that squat stance, after we're finished our 10, we're going to take our hands and bring them down. Feel a little bit of burn in the shoulders. Coming and grabbing as close to our heels as we can. We're going to straighten out the legs, bend the legs, and then stand and reach those arms back up. Bringing them down in between each rep. Again, straightening, bending. By no means do we have to actually get our legs straight. We're just straightening them enough so that we feel that stretch through the hamstrings, through the back of the legs. And again, if you don't feel comfortable quite getting so low, you can always do this holding onto your shins or your knees instead. 10 of them. Should have started with that. We're going to go through 10 reps total of these ones. And then we are going to move on out of that squat stance, bring ourselves to the very front of our mat, and get some lunges going. So we'll bring our arms down by our sides for this next one, standing hip width in our more narrow stance in our feet, stepping back into a lunge, sending both of those arms up above our head, alternating which leg goes back, both arms go up. We're doing 10 of these total, 5 on each side. This one, we should feel that stretch now through the front of the hip flexor as we go through them. And then again, the whole front side of the upper body, as we're reaching those arms up above that head. So we'll get through, again, 10 total, 5 per side. Once we're finished 10, we're going to stay here because the next 10, we have a rotation, which we're trying to make as fluid and flowing as possible. As I step back into the lunge, at the same time, I'm going to rotate in towards that front knee, counting another 10, 5 per side. Straight arm, same rules apply with the arms. And then we have 2 more. And this here, warm up. Probably starting to already feel warm as we go through them. So the next one is down on the floor. We're going to get ourselves down onto our back, laying on down in our bridge position. We want to make sure that there's some space down by our feet. Feet are hip width apart, hands can go down on the floor. Low back is squished down into the floor to help get that core activated. We're going to drive the hips up and lift up onto our heels. walking our feet out as far as we can, even so much if we can get them all the way straight. And then we're going to walk back into the top. That's 1. We're doing that 5 times. So we're going to feel this work through the hamstrings, the back of the legs, as well as through our core, because we're trying to avoid too much tilting happening in our hips. You may feel some because this one is a lot harder than it looks, but we'll try to avoid too much by really trying to stabilize those hips and keep them as tight as possible. So there and back is 1, 5 times total on these hamstring hip walkouts. And then we have one more movement, and it is back standing up. So we'll take our time with that one. We will not rush through it. Thinking about those hamstrings, hopefully we're feeling that going on back there. The last and final one is a little combination move. Arms up, legs straight, hip width. We're going to reach hand for opposite knee, cycling between these two, to the front, to the back. That's 1. We're doing 10 total. So every time I finish reaching behind my back, opposite limbs to opposite limbs, that's 3 for me. We're doing 10 of these and getting that stretch through the front of the legs, back of the legs as we kick those legs up. By no means do you have to actually touch your feet in either of these, but some of us might be able to. We're just going in that direction. Okay, so we'll get through those. That whole cycle is 1. We are doing 10. Hopefully we're feeling warmer than when we started, because we are going to get you started now on our conditioning work. So for today, we have an AMRAP conditioning circuit, which is going to be set on a 10-minute time cap. So you're going to have 10 minutes. There are 4 movements. I'm going to give you a prescribed amount of reps, which for these ones are very simple. It's 10 reps for each. And you are going to complete as many rounds of this as you can in 10 minutes. We're looking for anywhere between 3 to maybe even 6 or 7 rounds. If we don't take a lot of rest in between, of course, we're going to get more rounds, but some of us might need to take rest because you'll see why these movements are quite challenging. So we're going to start off. Before I press start on the timer, if you'd like to kind of join me on these and sort of practice them, then you can absolutely do so, or you can just watch and start when that timer goes off. First one is a squat jump, standard squat jump. We're going through 10 reps of these squat jumps. For those of us who don't jump, we're going to shoot up onto the toes rather than actually leaving the floor. Again, 10 reps for those ones. Movement number 2, down on the floor, is going to be our off-knee bird dogs. So we're in our all-4 position, popping off the knees. We're going to reach opposite arm and opposite leg, 10 reps total, 5 per side. It's hard to look at the side and do these. So we're going to focusing, of course, on balance, on core, and then obviously getting your heart rate up in those ones. All sorts of other things you're going to be feeling as well. So 5 per side, 10 total. Don't accidentally do 20, although you probably won't. That is our second one. Third one is going to be our lunge jumps. So another one that is sort of single-sided. We're going to get in this lunge and switch. That's 2, 3, 4. Same rules apply if you don't jump. Then you will just step back into these lunges instead. And again, we're doing 10 total, 5 per side. Last and final one, I'm going to finish you off with a full-on burpee. So we're going to be jumping for joy, woo, at the top, jumping out, dropping our chest to the floor, pushing up, coming in, and repeating 10 times total. Low impact, we're stepping out, coming down, pushing up, and then stepping in instead of jumping. Okay, so hopefully you remember those. If not, I will remind you of them, of course. 10 reps on each, 10 minutes total. And then the conditioning work is done. We have our strength supersets, 3 of them to be exact after this, which is the bulk of the work today. It's all the work. Ready? Ready or not? 3, 2, started. No beep because it's just a running clock for 10 minutes. Again, starting off with our 10 squat jumps, jumping as high as we can, trying to be explosive, powerful through these, getting our whole body straight. If you want to make them harder, you can reach your arms up above your head as you go through them. And of course, just try to jump higher, be faster in them. Second one, on the floor, off knee bird dogs. Speed is not the focus on these ones. Control is. So as we go through that opposite arm, opposite leg reach, we're trying to have control over these ones. If you want to make them harder, you can pause them. So reach out and hold, and then bring it in, and reach out and hold. 10 reps total. Those ones are always harder than they look. And then we got the lunge jumps, switching between these two, and 10 reps total, 5 per side. Those ones go quite fast. So again, we'll try to be as powerful in them as we can. 10 of them. Woo! And then the burpees. We're not getting away without doing these this week. 10 of them total. Chest to the floor, so there is that little sneaky push-up at the bottom. And again, we are jumping for joy. We're so happy to do these. At the top, 10 times. Now, once you're finished, we have 8.5 minutes left already. So you have lots of time. If you feel like you're good, then go right into your next set. But keep in mind that this option to rest is always on the table. Of course, we want to make sure that we're not resting for too long, because I mean, I say you can rest, you could just, rest the whole time, but that's not why we're here. We're here to get this working, here to get our heart rate up. So we'll try to limit this rest to maybe 30 to 45 seconds if we need it. Then maybe you just want to grab a sip of water and get going into your second set, or take a little bit longer if you need to. But keep in mind, everyone's different. So if you're feeling like you're gassed and you're simply just not going to make it, if you already struggled a lot to get through, for example, those burpees, then you might benefit from taking some rest, because it's going to allow you to feel better and stronger so that you can have a stronger, more powerful set. You're not just kind of breaking down as we go through each of these movements. But that's completely up to you. I'm just the messenger to tell you what to do. 7 minutes, just over 7 minutes, for you to get, again, as many rounds as you can. And we're going for at least 3, which for all of us should be no problemo. It's the 5, 6 that we're really going to have to work and push for to get those amount of rounds in. All right, and we'll pace ourselves, of course, as we go through these. Remember those different focuses for each of these. The bird dogs we will take our time with. It's actually going to be more challenging if you go slower. There you are. And the nice part about doing this conditioning work first, why I like to switch it up for you guys, is so that you can overall just feel stronger, be more fresh. We haven't done all this heavy strength leg work before, and so you can really have a good opportunity right now, although you might feel already quite fatigued. But imagine how you would have felt if we did the strength first. So that's why we're here, getting this conditioning work in, so that you can overall just push yourself harder in it and have a stronger set, or sets rather, for your circuit. So we're just over halfway. 6 minutes left to go on this timer, which is plenty of time, because in theory this is taking maybe just over 2 minutes to get each round in, maybe 3 if you're taking your time, adding rest, whatever it is. So we'll see if we can get through at least 2 more full rounds of these exercises in the next 5.5 minutes. And again, if you're feeling like you're sort of slowing down, because we were all quite ambitious, I know all you, and you all want to push yourself. I mean, again, that is why we're here. But if you feel like you can't, like you physically cannot go any faster and you want to, take a bit of rest. I know for some of us it sounds kind of counterintuitive, but it's going to allow you to really push harder and be more explosive, more powerful. Even, for example, in your squat jump, doing them sort of, just down here like this is one thing, but if you get down and you jump and you explode out of those squat jumps, you're going to get much more out of this in terms of your power work, for your legs, for that ticker of yours, your heart, your lungs, all of the above. There you go. More than halfway. Woo! Definitely feeling this now, if you weren't ready. We have 4.5 minutes left. There you are. Okay. There you go. So again, we'll remember, especially in that off-knee bird dog, because that is the slow one, that we need to have control. And if you rush it, you're actually not going to get as much as if you take your time and really tighten up your hips, just like we had a little bit of practice in that hip walkout. We want to make sure that we're not shifting and tilting and that we're in full control. As much as it feels like you might want to just rush through it. Same thing with the last one, the burpee. In order to really get the most out of this, we want to make sure that we're not like doing the worm as we push ourselves off the floor. You are essentially doing a little sneaky push-up, which I did warn you about back earlier on in the week that we would have them in here. So we'll make sure to get that in, lock our entire body so that we're pushing ourselves off and everything's moving off the floor at once. There you go. Even if it takes you a little longer, it's going to give you more out of this in terms of your core, your upper body, all of it, which in turn will benefit your conditioning. 3 minutes left. You got this. Yes, and that last one is the longest one. It's going to take you the longest to get through. So again, we'll pace ourselves. And try to hustle through this set. And again, try to get one more. I think you can. We have just over 2.5 minutes to go. And then you are done. This sweaty, quick work. It's all strength work after this, which is probably good news for most of us, unless you really like this stuff. And push yourself harder on it now so you can get the most out of it. There you are. Okay, so yeah, we're looking for that uncomfortable feeling, which you're probably starting to achieve right now, especially in the stuff where I don't tell you when to stop and start. Oftentimes you'll most likely be pushing yourself a lot harder than you would just kind of having that interval set timer. So we have 2 minutes left. Again, you should finish this circuit needing to stop. Like you should absolutely feel like you cannot keep going. So if you're feeling, still pretty good, then this is your last opportunity here. 1 minute, 45 seconds for you to really get yourself going into that uncomfortable feeling, the one that I am talking about. The one where you really feel like you are not going to make it, but somehow you just keep pushing through, trucking through that feeling, and that's where you're going to get stronger, fitter, improve your cardio, your conditioning system, and it's really on you. I cannot help you with it, especially here through this screen. You got to get this work in, and it's hardest when you're at home like this. No one's around you, no one's watching, and it really comes down to you. You're going to feel way better if you can just push yourself really hard for 1 more minute, because that's what we have left on the clock. Last 60 seconds. So let's forget the rest and let's just get going right away on to our next set. Try to hustle between these movements as quickly as possible so that we are all working, regardless if we're high impact, low impact. If we feel like we are going to throw up, whatever it is, let's try to just push through that feeling. Let's pace yourself, but 40 seconds left. And then that's it. That is all for this work. All right, let's go. Last chance, 30 seconds. And we are there. So we'll try to hustle to the finish line, try to get this last round in. But again, wherever you are, we're going to just keep it working here for 15 more seconds. You can keep going on this one. And if you're done your 10, just keep working on it. If you don't want to switch. So you have it in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and time. My lovely morning alarm. Okay, awesome work, my friends. So you are done that part, which again, for most of us is very good news, because that is usually the hardest part, is that conditioning work. So what we're going to do right now is rest. And I'm talking for like 2 whole minutes of just rest. Because the next part, the next 3 parts rather, we have 3 strength supersets that we are going to work through. And we don't want to feel this sort of hot and heavy feeling, although you will be feeling, sweaty and all that. But we want to be able to breathe and actually potentially like answer a question if we were asked of it. And right now, if you did what I was just asking you to do, you do not feel that way. You feel like you're huffing and puffing, like you need to keep moving, drink water, take deep breaths, and overall just calm yourself down. So I've set our timer. We have about 1 minute left of strictly just rest. And again, pacing and moving helps. Your body doesn't like to just stop after doing that sort of high intensity work. So we want to keep it moving here. Maybe a little bit longer. I'm going to start talking about our first superset. We're not going to officially start it for, again, about 1.5 minutes. So you have that amount of time to rest, to recover, to take those deep breaths, the ones that go into your belly, not just those shallow chest breaths. Those ones don't help us get the air in and calm ourselves down. Hopefully you feel good, accomplished, that you're done that work and that you pushed yourself. So we're going to start off with talking about this first superset, which is going to start off with a single leg deadlift. So this single leg deadlift, we have a rep count of 15 reps per side. Ideally, we want to use dumbbells, one heavier one, or in my case, maybe your case too. I'm going to stack my 2 8-pound dumbbells to create that heavier 16-pound dumbbell. What we're going to do as well is hold the weight on the standing leg side. Oftentimes we'll hold it on the opposite side over here, but what we're going to focus on is getting that 90-degree angle in this non-standing leg. As I hinge my hips back, I want to extend that leg out back behind me, and then I pull my hips forward, driving this knee up to the top. And again, we're going to hold the weight on the standing leg with the soft knee, of course. So when you're ready, hopefully right about now, we're going to grab onto that weight. If you're using bands, we'll loop that band underneath that same foot. Drive that knee up, strong arm, fist in the hands, no wet noodle arm over here. That's not holding the weight. We're going to hinge the hips back. So push the hips back, loading up this hip and hamstring, and then we'll pull them forward, driving that knee up to 90 degrees. 15 reps. We want to make sure, again, we're straightening out that leg as we extend, and then bending it and pulling it up so that we can get that nice squeeze on that standing glute. So we should feel this as well as through the back of the leg. This is going to be our first one, and we have another exercise to pair this one with, but we're going to start off here, get 15 reps in on both sides, and then we will talk about exercise number 2, part 2 to our first superset here. So 15 and 15, these ones do take a little bit to get through, so we will take our time and following a normal tempo, always, unless I specify otherwise. 2 seconds down, 2 seconds up on both sides. For the glutes, for the hamstrings. So we'll get through these, and then we will talk about our second movement. There we go. So we'll breathe through these ones, and we're going to get that exhale. We want to use that on the way up when we're pulling our hips forward, when we're recruiting those glutes, that hamstring to activate and pull the hips up. We want to exhale, breathe out. Inhale on the way down. 15, 15. We will be back here. We have 3 rounds total of this one, and then the next one, 3 sets. This is your first of 3. So we'll finish up both sides here. With this one, we have a squat variation. We're going to do a front-loaded pulsing squat. So I'm going to take now both of my weights and hold them up in front of me like so, not resting them on my chest, but keeping them in front of me, not too far away. Hip width, a little bit wider than hip width with that slight angle out in our toes. We're going to sit down and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then stand. That's 1 rep. We're doing 5 of them. So 4 more to go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 2. And again, you're doing 5 reps total. So let's get it started. Again, if you have an arrangement of weights, you can always hold one dog bone or goblet style. But let's try to work with those same weights. Working through, again, 5 reps with the 5 controlled pulses. We're not just bouncing. We want to take our time, intentionally moving up and down 5 times, and then standing up. And the saving grace is that you only have to do these 5 reps total. Now, once we're finished these, we are doing it again, going right into our second and third set. It's going to be a 3 rounds total. So we'll go back into that first one, again, holding the weight on the standing leg, making sure that we have that 90-degree knee drive in between every single one of those reps. And again, that we're moving through the hips. So you can imagine that you're pushing your hips back and then pulling the hips forward. We're not just bending down with the weight. We don't want to accidentally be moving through our low back. We want to make sure we're getting the work on the hips, on the glutes. So I know you're going to feel quite worked after those pulsing squats, but it's part of the deal. So we'll go right into our second set, back into this first one, our single leg deadlifts with the knee drive. With the balance, there it is. So we have 15 reps per side. Again, making sure to drive those hips back so we're feeling that tension, that tightness in the back of the hip and the glute through the hamstring. Yes, 15 times. There you go. So we'll work through this second set. Again, these ones are quite tedious just because they take so long to get through. But a little technique sometimes I like to use is counting like to 10 and then 5, or like 5, 5, 5, rather than all the way up to 15. It doesn't change the fact that you have to do 15 reps, but sometimes it just helps our brain and our mental state sort of get through that better than counting all the way up to 15. There we are. We'll work through, again, trying to keep these as even as possible on both sides, especially, again, with these higher rep ranges. First side usually is, no problem. Well, then we get to the second side. We just want to be done. We want to get through it. But remember that we're following that same normal tempo. 1, 2 down, and then 1, 2 up. Making sure you have a strong knee drive between every single one of your reps. There you go. Okay, so we'll get through that second set. Once again, going back into those pulsing squats. Now, for most of us, these ones are going to burn regardless. We're going to get the quads working, the front of the legs more than the back of the legs. You do want to make these harder. Let's say you don't have options for heavier weights like me. Maybe you're stuck with 1 or 2 dumbbells. What we're going to do is, again, slow down or even add some sticking points in with those pulses. So rather than just pulsing and leaving, we can stop. We can stop. Yes, it's going to take you a lot longer to get through your set, but overall, you're going to be more challenged by it. Because remember, we only have these 3 rounds total. So this is our second of 3 sets. We want to make sure that we are not feeling like we want to do 6 or 7 or 8, or that we could. We want to feel really challenged by those 5. All right. Okay. Oh, okay. I know, that one is a burner. All right, we have 1 more set left of the last round. And then, like I said, we have 2 more supersets. Different exercises, but same style as this one. And then we are stretching and finish on this Friday, this rainy Friday. So we'll get going again right away on our 3rd set. Trying to limit the rest. Get right into those deadlifts, and then finish up with our final round of those pulsing squats. And challenging ourselves, and maybe taking a little bit longer to complete those deadlifts, thinking about sending a bit more of that mind-to-muscle connection to your glutes, to your hamstrings, so that you're really feeling it, loading up that tense feeling in your hips. 15. Usually with 15 though, we don't really have to think about it as much because there are lots of reps for your muscles to get that working for. There you go. Okay, so we'll finish strong here. And try to keep it even on both sides. And then we have that last set of those squats. 5 reps. Sounds like no problem until I added those 5 pulses in. But again, that is why we're doing them, so that we can challenge ourselves. So if you really want to go out with a bang, get a little bit more work in on this last set, then again, you can either just simply slow down or pause at every one of those points. Every one of those pulsing points, we can add a little stop in. It doesn't have to be for a specific count or anything like that, but simply just kind of sticking at each point. See how you feel, if you want to. Or just keep doing them the same, that's okay too. So we have about 2 minutes until we really should be starting our second superset. So I'll give you that amount of time, you've got a minute and a half to finish up this last set. If you're done early, if you are done, then you can just grab some water, check it out, walk it off, keep all the stuff out and close. We are going to need it for our next 2 parts. But you can just rest until then, because we didn't have pretty much any time to rest between those sets. Okay. So hopefully we're feeling good, feeling work in the legs. We have our next superset here, which is going to start off with the lunging variation. Now, this lunge that we're going to start with also has some sneaky core work in it. That's actually not so sneaky. You're going to feel a lot of core work because of the way that we're going to be holding the weights. We're going to have them up in this front-loaded position. So I'll be using both of my 8-pound dumbbells, holding them up here, stepping back into a lunge, incorporating that same 90-degree knee drive that we had in that deadlift into these lunges now. The rep range is going to be 10 reps. So we're doing 10 reps of these on each side. And of course, we have another movement that we will talk about after we're finished our first set of this one. We have 4 rounds to get through. So let's grab our weights, start our first set. Again, if your weights are on the heavier side, you can always hold 1 dumbbell sideways like this. I'm going to use both of mine. So just these 8-pounders, and we want to make sure we're not resting them on our shoulders. They don't have to be up in our 90-degree position that we know and probably don't love, but we want to make sure that they're in front of us, stepping back into the lunge, and then again, using that front leg to pull ourselves out of the lunge. So we've had a lot of practice with that slider lunge. That's what we want to think about here, is that front leg only doing the work to pull ourselves all the way up into this position here. 10 reps on this side, and then we'll switch and we'll do 10 reps on the other side. Now, if you do want to make this a bit more challenging, let's say you have cute little 3s or 5s for your weights, and it's not that challenging, what you can do is pull those weights away from your shoulders, which is going to, again, incorporate more core, a bit more upper body, and overall make them feel a lot heavier in that front-loaded position than having them closer. So this is our first one. We'll start this, ready or not. Here we go, through our 10 reps per side. We're trying to go right up into the knee drive, right back into the lunge, not touching the floor between those 2. So yes, a little bit of balance is involved. Welcome back. All right, so we'll get this going on both sides. Woo! And we also might feel, that heart rate getting up there, because again, that front-loaded position really does use a lot through here. If we weren't using our core, we would just be like flopped over like this. So whether you like it or not, we're incorporating that core work in here. So we'll get through our first set, 10 and 10. And then we have a deadlift variation that we are going to do with this one. Sumo, straight leg deadlift, squat stance. Adding in that angle out in my toes, hinge the hips back into this deadlift, and then we'll squeeze our butt and pull those hips forward. 10 reps is the number that we're working through on these ones as well. So by having those feet angled out and wider, we're going to be targeting more on the sides of our hips. That being said, it's very important that we're still hinging those hips back and we're not moving through our lower back. We want to make sure we're sticking the butt out and then actually squeezing and activating our glutes to pull those hips forward. 10 reps. Same idea here as the first superset. We are not taking any rest. So once you're finished your 10 deadlifts, we are going right into our second set, back into those lunges for our second, third, and fourth set of these two. So yes, as you learned, as we already knew, when we don't take any rest between our sets, they get progressively harder. So we're going to try our best to do the same thing that we did on that first set, regardless of how much harder it feels to maintain. We will still, again, keep that front-loaded position, not rest the dumbbell, yes, and then make sure to get that knee drive 90 degrees every single rep. We also want to make sure that we're getting down to 90 degrees, that we're not hovering above that 90-degree point, of course, unless you have some sort of reason that we have most definitely already talked about, in which case that's okay. But that full range of motion is crucial for these ones. 10 and 10. Okay, so we'll get through our second set and trying to work back to back between these two. Working through that burning leg feeling. This is the burn that we can work through, that we have to work through and push through. And that's why we don't have any rest, so that we can kind of progressively feel this more and more as we go through these 4 sets total. This one, 2 more. We are getting there, my friends. We have 1 more superset after this, and we are done. Just a couple stretches as usual, and then you are free to go on this Friday. So when we're holding those weights in that front-loaded position, especially those of us who have sort of maybe more sensitive knees, something that we have to remember is to make sure to really push those hips back to create this 90-degree angle, especially when we're holding them in the front as opposed to down here. It can be sort of natural to want to sort of push your knee forward, but that's going to put excessive pressure on your knee and take it off of your glute. So we want to make sure to keep the weight in the heel, although the whole foot is going to stay on the floor, but by really sticking the butt out, like I'm constantly asking you guys to do, that's going to allow you to overall keep your knee safer, as well as get more of that work through the back of the hips, which is what we are looking for here on our reverse lunges. All right, let's get it. Set number 3, 10 and 10. We have lots of time. We have about 5 minutes to get through this set, as well as our last set, these 2. There you go. So we'll breathe through these ones just as we did in those deadlifts. Coming to the bottom with an inhale and then exhale, and using that breath to pull ourselves out of that lunge, driving that knee up to the top. Every one of those 10 reps total. There you are. So with these ones, the deadlift is a very strong movement. So again, if you do want to make this a bit more challenging without necessarily changing your weights, adding more time to that lowering phase is going to do so. That, in addition to just being more conscious about that squeeze in your glutes that lifts us up. As we're going down, you can think about lengthening the glutes, the hamstrings. Everything is stretching, and then we want to squeeze and contract, squeeze the butt, and that's what pulls us up to the top, rather than just sort of standing and squeezing. That is not as effective as kind of consciously using those muscles to pull up, which does take thought. It does take focus, so no, you can't just go up and down through your 10 reps. If you haven't been thinking about that, well, then you have 1 more set to lock that in and get that going on here, which is going to take us to the finish line of these 2 movements, this superset. And this is it. So we're through our 4th and final set. The last one, the one you don't really want to do, especially when we're doing those nice 3 sets. But here we are, 4 rounds total. And then we are done with these 2. And we have about 2 minutes to get in this final round. There you go. Last round. Okay. This round finished, my friends. And if you want to go out with a bang, we'll take a little bit more time to get lowering and bringing ourselves down in each one of those reps. Maybe adding another 1 to 2 seconds, and then that is it. You're gonna rest. So if you're already done, rest it out. We are going into our last and final part, which is actually a tricep. We have 3 exercises that we are going to be working through, and then we all finished. Done for the day. And also, the last nice thing about this last part is that you are working on a timer. Back on that interval timer. So as you guys finish up this part, I am going to make sure that our timer is set for this last part, which is basically just going to beep every minute. It's going to switch us between these movements. So very important part about this last part is that we hustle between these exercises because there's no time in between on the timer. Timer's just going to beep every minute, which is going to switch us between these 3 movements. Starting off with this first one, it's going to be a single leg calf raise. Now, what we're going to do is hold on to something so that we don't have to think about balance. We're going to be standing on one leg and using 1 or 2 hands to hold on to a bench, chair, wall, whatever it is, working with a single leg calf raise for 30 seconds. I will tell you when to switch because, again, this timer is going to beep every minute. So we'll do 30 seconds on this side. 30 seconds on the other side here. We're going to want to keep our weights close because our second movement is going to be a weighted side lunge. For 60 seconds, we're going to be side lunging right and left, and that is going to be our second movement. Third one is going to be a wall sit. So again, we're going to put those guys down right away, hustle into this wall sit. If you don't have a wall, just want to put your foot back on, then you can just hold a squat hold instead. And we have 3 sets of this leg circuit that we are going to work through. So starting off with our first one, are you ready? Calf raises. All right, well, get ready because we are starting in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. First set, first leg, get all one leg for 30 seconds. This other one can just be hanging out in front or behind. It doesn't matter what it's doing. But we are trying to lift up off the floor, come down and not relax the heel down, but come to the floor so that we're getting through that full range of motion. 10 more seconds on this side. And, which you're probably feeling, this one is a burner. We're going to feel this a lot through that calf. And switch. So we'll switch sides, working with that second side now for the next 30 seconds. Again, trying to do the same thing on the second side. Breathing through these because they burn like crazy. 10 seconds left. Woohoo! We don't do single calf raises often, but when we do, they burn. All right, on to our second one. So again, we'll try to grab those weights, widen up our feet nice and wide, and work with these side lunges. So in these ones, it's not so important that we get down to 90 degrees, but we want to make sure that we're pushing our hips back, allowing our upper body to fall forward, straight from the side, so that our hips are going back and that we're getting a bit of a stretch through that straight leg. Using that bent leg to push ourselves sideways and up, 2 motions at the same time. And then again, those weights are just going to sit in between our legs, in between that knee all those reps. 20 seconds left. There we go. So this one is, you get a little bit of work, of course a lot of work rather, and a little bit of mobility in those inner thighs as we drop those hips side to side. Give me that one more here. 5, 4, 3, 2, and we'll put those weights down right away, my friends. Get going into this wall sit. Although I know a minute-long wall sit, you might want to take your time, but let's try to hustle getting into it right away. Holding this here for 60 seconds. 90 degrees is required on this one, so we'll want to lower ourselves down so we're in that 90-degree angle. And again, if you don't have that wall, or maybe it's just nice and white and clean, you don't want to sit against it, then you can hold your squat hold instead. 30 seconds left. Again, this is going to conclude our first set, and you have 2 more after this, and then we are done the work. So breathe through this. Burning wall sit. Yes, all of these ones burn. Maybe because we've done all that stuff before this. Maybe because they're just hard by themselves. 5 seconds left. 3, 2, 1, and standing up right into our second set. Back to those single leg calf raises. So we'll work through our second round and spending 30 seconds on each side, working with this single leg calf raise. There you go. Okay, we need one more here, and switch sides. So we'll go onto our other side, onto our other leg. 30 seconds. Maybe you find one side is a lot harder than the other, a lot stronger than the other, whatever it is. That's quite normal with this stuff, but that's why we're doing this direct calf work, because we don't do it often. We do a lot of jumping around and stuff like that, and some of us naturally have stronger calves than others, but that really does help make these stronger, which prevents a lot of injuries that could happen through the ankle, through the Achilles. And there we go. On to the next one, side lunges. So we'll set up those feet, grab those weights, and let's go. Right into it, second set. Coming all the way up between every one of those reps. We want to stand tall, drive the hips forward. This one will feel a lot of stuff from the quad, the outside of the glute, and the back of the hip as well. And again, that little bit of a stretching feeling through the inner thigh. 30 seconds left. And we are breathing through these ones. There you go. Okay, last 10 seconds. So close. It's so far. 3, 2, 1, and time into your wall sit. Let's get it going on right away. 60 seconds. Let's work it. So hustling into it, holding on strong here, and breathing through it. Breathing through the burns. We're going to feel in the quads. That's what we're going for here. All right, 30 seconds left. There you go. Last 20 seconds. I know this timer feels like it's always way longer than it is, especially on something like this for the wall sit, for the minute long. 10 seconds left though, you've got this. One more round and then we are done here. 3, 2, 1, and off the wall into your last set of those single leg calf raises. Let's do it. Final round, final set. This is it. So we'll breathe through this last set. 10 seconds left on the side. Maybe go for like 3 more, all the way up to the top. And switch sides. Onto our second side, last set, Let's do it. There you are. Nice work. 10 seconds left. Yes. 3, 2, 1, and side lunges. Let's go on to our final set. So widen up those feet. Get going into it right away through our last set. Always the moment you've been waiting for, the last round, last circuit. Of course, we have a couple stretches we are going to get through, and then we are done. It's probably going to be the hardest part, this one, and then, of course, that 60-second wall sit. That never really seems to get easier for most of us. I guess some of us it might feel, but first thing I always feel like it just burns the same. That's why we're going to do it, so that you can hopefully one day get stronger and feel that burn a little bit less. 15 seconds until we're going to get it going on. We'll throw one more on each side, taking it again nice and slow. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and the weight's down into the wall sit, into the squat hold if you're not wall sitting, and let's go. Right into it for our last and final set. Let's get it. There you are. So we have 40 seconds left. 40 seconds of this burn. Doing whatever you got to do to distract yourself, except we want to keep our hands away from our thighs. You can have them in the air, put them behind your head, do a little dance, whatever you want to do to get through 25 more seconds of this work, and then you are done the work. Great news. Okay, but we'll breathe through this, taking 5 more nice, slow, deep breaths. 10 seconds left. That is it. Strong finish, just as strong as you started. 3, 2, and time. You are done. That running leg work. Okay, so hopefully you feel good, although you probably feel quite fatigued in your legs, which is good. That's what we were going for. We're going to get some stretches in, starting off with us laying down on our back. Once again, we're going to get the stretch for our glutes, the back of the hips. And if you have a wall that you're comfortable putting your feet on, you can, of course, take your shoes off or keep them on, whatever it is. We'll put that foot on the wall, bend that opposite knee up. The nice thing about this one is that we don't have to reach through and pull in, so it's much more passive. We can kind of just relax and sit into it. That being said, again, if you don't have a wall, you can reach through and pull that leg in. If you want to make this deeper, you can move closer to the wall, and we're going to hang out here for 30 seconds per side. As per usual with our stretches, this is a kind of a shorter end of the hold. If you want to come back and do another set or two, you can hold it upward to 60 seconds, which is overall just going to help you loosen up all these muscles in your legs a lot more than just a quick 30 seconds. But it's always better than nothing. It's better than you just kind of getting on with your day and not stretching at all, especially after all of that work that we did for the legs, even in that conditioning. We had lots of work in the hips as well. So we'll take a couple more deep breaths as we approach the end of this 30 seconds. And then we'll switch sides, switching over to the other side, whatever variation you are doing for that stretch. And we will breathe into this. And this one always feels so good after all that leg glute work that we do. Back of the legs, back of the hips. So this is our first one. There are 2 more that we're going to do on this 30-second hold. And again, that same rule is going to apply to the next 2. If you want to come back and make yourself another 3 to 5 minutes dedicated towards stretching in your day, then you can come back and do another set or 2 after this. It'll go a little bit longer. But we'll release this one. The next one, we're going to shimmy up a little bit here, move these guys out of my way. And we're going to work with that bow and arrow. So for these ones, I'm just going to stack my legs. If you're quite bendy, you can do that with me, holding this here for, again, 30 seconds, trying to relax the ribs, the shoulder, pull all that down onto the floor, keeping the knees together, And breathing through this nice lower back and hip focused stretch. You'll also feel some stretching work through the chest and the shoulders, maybe a little leftover from yesterday if you were here for that upper body. And we will breathe into this. Now, as we finish up our 30 seconds, we're going to reach this arm up and over our head and switch over and do the other side. So you can just flip over, turn around, do whatever you want to do, and then we're again going to come across with that arm and breathe into the stretch now on the other side. So this is a really good one, especially for those of us who feel like maybe there's some tension in our lower back. It's going to help loosen everything up. Same with the hips. You should feel sort of the opening of the side of the hip here. And then again, our chest and shoulders. And it feels so nice after all that work that we just did. So a few more deep breaths. And then again, we'll reach up and over that head, bring back to center, flipping ourselves onto our hands and our knees, finishing off with this nice child's pose. So we'll sit on our heels, walk our fingertips away, so give us a nice stretch through the lower back. And again, we'll hold this here for 30 seconds at least, upward to even 60, which if you'd like, you can just stay in because this is our last one and you guys are done with me. If there's any other stretches that you want to do, for example, one you might want to do is for your hip flexors if you are feeling quite tight. If you just have tight hip flexors or a tight lower back to begin with, this half-kneeling hip flexor stretch might benefit you. You might want to add it in here. Or again, you can complete another set of all of those ones we just did. So my friends are done with me for today, for the week. Until next week, which will be all pause work replays. So those are the ones where we do the warm-up together, and then I explain each different part of the session. You pause the video, complete the part, and then start the video to listen to the next part. And that is going to be happening for the next foreseeable 2 months until hopefully we get some live outdoor classes and potentially some maybe longer pre-recorded classes in. And that is all. Hopefully you guys all feel good. Thank you, Tanis and Dave, for hanging out in Zoom room for our last official Zoom class. For now, I keep saying that because we hope to be back here in the future. And I will hopefully see you guys in the replays next week. Okay, have a great day, have a great weekend, and I will see you guys next time.